So I remember when I first got this unit, um, up to that point it had been an amp and a pedal or two. And this was just an amazing thing that Line 6 came up with. And what I noticed right away with it was that it was very simple to operate. Um, you could go through the amps and then go through your EQ, reverb, delay, push save, save, and it would save it to bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, whatever. And it sounded great. It was easy to use, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Then they came out. This was the first generation. Then they came out with the second generation, the XT, I think. I got it. And they went to the floor and did 2 or 3 models on the floor. Then they went to a menu-based system. Line 6 did, and it sounded great. I think the 300, and then they did the 500. And I followed the technology, because if it's newer, it has to be better, right? So, and I'll never forget. I was at a concert. I sat and went through these little menus with a little screen and dialed in what I thought was 4 great sounds. That's technically what I use, is four sounds. And I remember I got to a sound check, and I was sound checking for the concert, and I had this runaway delay I just couldn't get rid of. I think it was the 300 or the 500 pod, whatever one's on the floor there. And I called a friend of mine, Andy Ferguson, a great player, by the way. And I said, and a great friend. I said, Andy, I'm in a bind. And fortunately, I happened to catch him, and he owned the same unit. Had actually sent me some sounds, and so I remember him telling me how to get into there and dial the delay back, and he saved the day for me. And well, that was pretty much the day that I said, you know what, this has got out of control for me. I spent hours tweaking tones, either with phones or through monitor speakers. And then when I get to where I'm going and I run it through a PA, it doesn't translate the same. And so I realized then you're kind of at the mercy of whatever sound system you have. I know there's purists that says, well, I've got to have, this amp. But at the end of the day, when when you put a mic on an amp and it's translated through somebody's soundboard and they're EQing it, how does it translate, honestly? Obviously, we get to hear the amp to us, but there's a lot of factors between the time you play at your amp level and when it gets to the crowd to what they actually hear. And so that was the point that I said, you know what, I'm stripping everything back to more of a basic. So I started finding the best amp modeling pedal I could find, and I ended up getting the Ethos. This unit, it's got a lot of knobs on it, but you don't have to program anything. You just kind of turn the knobs to where it sounds good, and there you go. And I know that the newer units have 47 amps, and but I started thinking about the greatest players to me, Hendrix and Eric Johnson and guys like that, even in Bonamassa, even and Andy Timmons, which is one of my very favorite players, use pedal boards with just a small amount of pedals. not an extreme amount of pedals, and one or two amps. Eric Johnson, I think, uses a couple amps, one for his clean, one for his distortion side, but he keeps it simple. And which brings me to really what I want to talk about is do we want to program or do we want to play? Man, I've spent countless hours going through menus and scrolling and trying to dial up the right sounds and delays and the EQs and getting everything just right. And I still do. I have I use Logic Pro, and I've got several great plugins that are guitar plugins, and I still find myself, I'm trying to wean myself from them because I find myself chasing tones like, and I just want to play. In my studio here, I've got a board, and I've got right now I've got five, six, seven, eight, nine, eight or nine pedals on it, which is an amp pedal, a delay, and a chorus, or a couple of distortions, and a couple of compressor pedals. Because when I come in here in the morning times, which I do rather early, I plug in my guitar. I just want to play. And the quicker I can play, the better off I am. I don't want to sit and tweak. By the time I get done tweaking and running down this technological rabbit hole, I'm worn out and don't want to play. So, and I know that there's a certain amount of enjoyment I have in doing that, just experimenting with presets. This thing has 127 presets, and ultimately I found that a lot of them, the presets, never really worked for me out of the box. They had to be tweaked. So, and I find by just plugging into my simple system here, I might want clean, I might want distorted, I might want a slight amount of chorus or a delay, but that's ultimately where I want to be able to play. I can dial it up quick, and I'm finished with it. I've got friends that's got quad cortexes, fractals, Kempers. They're great units and they sound great. But I'm just myself. I'm 64. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and I'm a little slower to catch on to technology. And I just want to play. I want to get up, plug my guitar in, and play. So I've decided years ago to go the pedal route. And man, I see demos of just equipment. I go, wow, that sounds really good. But to get to where I want to be, climbing through the endless menu items, I just don't know if it's something I want to do. And so ultimately, as we get older, I tell people, when you're going to learn the most when you're really young, because you've got time to sit and learn the guitar. As you get older, you get a career, you get married, you have children, you have your job, you have other hobbies that you want to do, and you only have a certain amount of slotted time to play guitar, and it's so easy to get caught up in going down the rabbit hole of just playing with tones instead of just playing guitar. And sometimes I miss that simplicity of when I was just a kid. I had a guitar and an amp. I had a TSGO and a little plastic amp, and no effects, just played guitar. But I didn't think about anything else. I just played. And sometimes getting back to that is more fun. It pushes away everything, because ultimately we just want to play guitar, and that's why I have a very simple setup, both in my studio and live, because I just want to plug in and play. I might want to turn a couple of knobs to tweak the EQ for that particular room or whatever, but it's just the quickest way I can play guitar and start expressing, the happier I am. Um, and so that's basically what I wanted to talk about today, and maximizing your time that you have, and making it productive. If you enjoy the programming and the experimenting and setting up sounds and IRs, and that's all good, because it's really exciting what keeps coming down the road. But at this point in my life, I'm just thinking I just want to plug in and play, turn a couple of knobs, and be there. So, well, enjoy your journey on the guitar. It's a great instrument and a lot of fun, and that's just my opinion. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon.